An A player is someone that is independent, self-accountable, gritty. They can face adversity and not have a negative attitude about it. These are the humans that, with or without you, they're going to succeed, but with you, they're going to blow it out of the water. I've been in sales forever and a day, right? Probably long before you even probably knew what sales was. And then but let's start where my career kind of took a pivot. In 2009, things changed a lot, especially in California. And I had been working in sales in Northern California at a small advertising agency. And then the crash happened, and that agency went out of business. So I sought out a company in San Francisco called Yelp that nobody knew of at the time. And that began my journey in the startup world. And then, so with Yelp, I was there for 6.5 years. I built and founded Yelp University and trained over 3,000 salespeople and hundreds of sales leaders because all of our sales leaders had to go through sales and then et cetera, et cetera. And so, and I really just got my feet underneath me in the startup, tech world. And then I was recruited over to a company called Zenefits, very well known here in the States, to build out an SDR team. And then I think we all know what happened with Zenefits. So myself and my team all let go on the same day. And anyways, from there, I've just been working with startups over the years and helping grow out sales teams. So sales development. My last team was customer success and customer support as well. So that was a new adventure for me. Okay. And now I'm currently at New Relic and I head their global SDR team.
Awesome. That's a really cool story. Where do you think this kind of passion for developing reps or sales teams comes from?
It's a good question too. So I had never done that before. I'd always been an individual contributor. And as a high performing individual contributor, I never even really wanted leadership. You kind of make a lot of money and you're happy there. And then at Yelp, everybody after about a year, if you're a high performing rep, and you exhibit leadership signs, they move you into a sales role. So I had been at Yelp for about 9 or 10 months and they asked me to be a sales manager. And then I was training my team because I was one of the only humans that had prior sales experience. And so I was training my team to understand sales, not just Yelp. And because of that, they asked me to build out a sales enablement program. And I would have never been an enablement person. And now it's kind of stuck with me, but I'm very much a full cycle sales human and a full cycle sales leader. But I happen to be very good at teaching people how to sell. I wrote my master's thesis on the evolution of sales and sales leadership. I've written, obviously, as you know, a sales book. Yes. I think I just love the craft of sales. And so I think that passion shines through in enablement.
Okay, awesome. So on that then, let's start off with what defines an A player in sales?
So, and I know people want specific metrics and we can get into that, but honestly, an A player is much, much more than that. And this is what I hire for as well. An A player is someone that is gritty and tenacious. And is it funny to say one of a kind, but I don't mean one of a kind, but they tend to be the top 20%, right? Because they're the humans that are independent, self-accountable, gritty. They can face adversity and not have a negative attitude about it. They can hit all of their metrics and you don't have to babysit them. They go above and beyond to succeed, right? These are the humans that do their own research, reach out to other top players to figure out what other top players are doing. These are the humans that with or without you, they're going to succeed, but with you, they're going to blow it out of the water, right?
Okay. I like that a lot. So would you say it's, I guess you can define them as A players, but is it like an A mentality? Like you have to have that mentality, and it's not necessarily something, that mentality can't necessarily be trained.
I don't think it can, right? I
Okay.
think you hire for that. I think you hire for that. Now, everyone thinks they're an A player, but the A players tend to just shine for themselves. I have someone on my team right now who she's in her first 5 months, and she's performing up with people that have been there for 2 years. And I didn't teach her that. Nobody has taught her that. She just, that's what she's doing, right? And it's actually hard to find those humans when you're hiring, because everyone comes off that way. It's not until in practice that you tend to find them, but you can ask some really good questions around it. And then A players are also, they consistently hit their number. So if you want to look for a quantifiable metric around A players, that's the human that is always hitting goal, exceeding goal most likely, and may have a hiccup maybe once a year or something like that, but they course correct themselves, right?
Okay.
That's how you define an A players. This is your top 20% that are blowing it out of the water, and if they have a hiccup, they course correct.
I like that. I picked up on one key thing there, and it was they might have a hiccup. So let's say failure. What's the difference between how an A player reacts to failure and a B player reacts to failure, would you say, or a C player, someone that's not in the A court?
When an A player fails, they are harder than themselves than you could ever be. So they're already berating themselves. They're already in their head about it. They're already making steps to course correct. All they need from you typically, so B players, C players need a more disciplinarian approach, right? In the sense of like, hey, I need you to hit this. A players need that this has nothing to do with you. You got this. You're a rock star. Just do what you know how to do best, kind of cheering on mentality, right? Or maybe if something has changed within your systems and maybe something new has caused them to fall off course, then just that coaching, et cetera, to get them on course, right? So when I say something new, maybe they're calling into a new territory or selling something new or something like that. But typically, they've either taken vacation and that month or that week hurt their month, or it's just a fluke, and they tend to course correct on their own.
Okay, awesome. So when is it kind of, when you're training or kind of trying to mentor an A player, is it a case of just letting go of the reins there? Or like what kind of role can you play that really helps them?
So when you're working with A players, when you're training them in the beginning, they should get the same training as everybody else. I wouldn't say that if someone that's showing promise right ahead actually should get more attention, right? I think your time is better spent on humans that are actually taking your coaching and feedback and guidance and running with it than it is with people that you're having to pull along. So spend your time with these A players. Two, and I think this has been proven time and time again in numerous sales leadership books, is even after that, the time that you spend with your A players, it yields higher returns than spending your time with, say, a C player, right? And so they may not necessarily need to be coached on calls, but sometimes they do, in the sense of pointing out what they do well. Point out what they do well, help them put that into a repeat mode, right? So A players don't always understand why they're good. So showing them why they're good or helping them see why they're good. I always say, be a mirror. Let them see themselves for who they are. Be there to pre-call plan. Pre-call plan demos, post-call plan. Okay, what did you do really well on that call, and what can we do again on this next call? On the pre-call plan, it's why is this person going to close? Okay, have you closed someone like this before? How are you going to go into it? It's just like a coach. Just because Kobe Bryant is an amazing basketball player doesn't mean the coach wasn't there to help him along, right? And so it's the same thing. So if you have a
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant on your team, or you have a Steph Curry on your team, you're still going to coach them and work with them, because they are so good, right? So you're still spending your time with these A players, helping them see why they're good, putting in guidance, pre-call planning, post-call coaching, and then providing resources and clearing obstacles. So one of the best things you can do as a sales leader is clear obstacles. If they're having trouble getting their deals pushed through, if they need approval from finance, whatever it is, tackle those things for your A players, and they will thank you for it.
Awesome. You mentioned Kobe Bryant there. I'm a big fan of Kobe Bryant. I read the book with his trainer. Is it Unstoppable or Limitless? I think it's Limitless. And what sticks out about Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, these type of players, is that they always worked like an A player, but they had the mentality that they were kind of a B player, that they always needed to get better and better and better. And that they never reached the summit of the mountain, right? Is that a similar sort of characteristics you see in sales? They never ever sit back and go, okay, I'm here now, I can relax. Because sales, it's such a fast-paced environment that if you sleep on a win, you'll wake up with a loss, right?
So you literally just described an A player. That is
Okay.
that person. It's that person that, so I know you said Kobe Bryant. I'm gonna go back to Steph Curry. Did you see Steph Curry's interview where he talks about how much he practices? And
I've seen a few
he's
things.
constantly in the gym practicing,
Yes.
right? And that is the exact same in sales. So you'll get these people that come in and they learn the product, and they're listening to calls, and they're reaching out to other AEs, and they're spending so much time practicing, so to speak. And you can't teach that. I can't teach that. I tell everyone to do that. And I'll tell new hires, this is what I've seen the best people do. And you give them all the best practices. But it's the A players that do it just instinctively, and you don't have to tell them. Like Kobe Bryant, I'm guaranteeing that Kobe, that Steph, all these guys, they came with all of that skill, and they came with all that dedication and that perseverance and tenacity, and then the coach just helps guide them.
Yeah, that's a great point. So if we come away from A players, let's go to B and C players.
Mm-hmm.
What is your coaching? What's your coaching looking like with B and C players?
So, and let's define B and C players, right? So,
Okay.
and I want to take away the negative stigma, because B players are awesome.
Yes.
And you're never going to get away from having B players. If you think you're going to have an entire team of A players, you're dreaming, right? They're hard to find, and they tend to move up and move on fairly quickly as well. And so the vast majority of your team will always be B players. And so there shouldn't be a negative stigma there at all. B players are great. They're consistent, right? They're hitting quota or goals probably 10 months out of the year, 9 months out of the year, but getting, 75% or higher for most of those, even short months.
Okay.
Hold on.
No problem.
And sorry.
No worries.
And so with the B players, they still work hard. They still have a great attitude. They still go above and beyond. But they'll fall short from time to time, and they do need a little bit more coaching or a little bit more hand holding. There might be something there that you need to work with, right? And so if you have B players right out of the gate that aren't doing what your A players are doing, spend time with them, coach them, help them, point out where, they can do better, get on their calls, do all the same things you would for an A player. It's just, they may need just a little bit more hand holding, right?
Okay.
But bless the B players out there. Sometimes having a good, solid B player is almost as good as an A player, in the sense of maybe it's that person that just wants to be on your team forever. And that's just so nice to not have to worry that they're going to go on. They're content. They work hard. They have good attitude. great. Give me a whole team of B players, right? And a couple of A players. I appreciate that. Now, C players it's not always performance, right? So in your mind, you're thinking, okay, these are the people that are underperforming. Yeah, but sometimes a C player is someone that's a pain in the butt, someone that calls out sick, is negative, brings negativity to the team, maybe hits, but doesn't hit consistently. And it just takes a lot of your time, right? But it also could be performance. That could be someone that also might have a really great attitude, a great work ethic, but just can't get it right. Has really good intentions, bless their heart, wanted to try sales, whatever it was. And no matter how much coaching you put into them, they just can't even get close to where they need to be, right?
Okay.
And so you have to part ways because of performance. So I wanted to find that. And then how you work with a B player is the same as an A player. Put that time and attention into them. There are times where you can turn a B player into an A player. Maybe it was just they've never been in sales before or something like that. And then C players, I think what's important here and what leaders really need to understand is don't spend too much time here. Especially the ones that have a really great attitude, work really hard and can't seem to get it. You have this hope and this wish for them. And so you put a lot of effort into them because they're putting a lot of effort into, and you should at the beginning, but there's got to be a time where you say like, hey, I've put a lot of effort into you. Now you just have to be able to do it, or we have to part ways, right? So don't let C players suck up your time.
Nice. I like that. So a good question on that would be, what bridge is more difficult to cross? Is it a C to a B player or a B to an A player?
I'd say a C to a B. And here's, okay. So that question is tricky because in sales, there's always exceptions to every rule, right? But I think generally a C to a B is a little bit harder. And here's why. Because if you're a C player, there's something fairly strong holding you back. Now, I don't mean the C players that are rookies, are new hires. You might have new hires that in their first couple of months might appear to be a C, but as they start to pick things up, they actually are a B player. So a B player, C player, A player, all of those are loosely defined during ramping period, right? But after someone has been there, they've learned the product, they should know by now. And if they fall into one of those categories, then the hardest would be C to B. And the reason why is from C to B, there's a reason why they're a C player. There's a reason, right? It's either skill or will or attitude. And if it's one of those things, as good as a leader might be, those things are hard to fix.
Okay, interesting. I guess as well with C players, if you remain a C player for long enough, I guess your time is borrowed in the role anyway, maybe. And if you can't make that bridge to a B player, I guess your time is borrowed, right?
Absolutely. And it should, that's how a leader should feel. If you have leaders that hold on to people too long, then the leader's time should be borrowed.
Okay, awesome. And my final question for you would be, would you taking into account your experience, what's the top 3 characteristics an A player has and that every rep should hope to have?
Well, so the 3 things I hire for, number 1 is the grit, like we said before. And hiring is the number 1 thing you can do. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're reading books and you've got people on your team or whatever, I'll give you the number 1 rule for my team. And what I always teach my sales directors or sales managers is maybes are no's.
Okay.
Don't talk yourself into a hire. You should be very excited about the hire and they should resonate with all the things that you're looking for. If they do not, and you question something, you should be a no on that person. So I'm going to just lay that out there. And the characteristics you look for are grit and tenacity. Some some of, I mean, and I can't even quote the books or the articles or whatever I pulled this from, but this, what I'm about to tell you is not my information. I've pulled it in from various sources. One of the things is, you know, is this their very first job out of college? If this is their very first sales job, if it's a lower level sales role and you just need them to come in and it's a transactional sell, that's fine. You can teach them, right? If this is a higher level tech sell, if you're in SaaS, consumption technology, and this is their first job out of college, I'm a no, right? Like you
Okay.
need to have been working through school, or at least in sports through school, and then a job, right? And so grit and tenacity, someone that's worked really hard, someone that can face challenges and not give up, to have a positive attitude, and be able to work hard. Can you work hard, right? And then can they take coaching and feedback? So always role play on your calls, on your interviews, always role play, always hold them to that. And if you have someone that's gritty, great attitude, can work hard, and can take coaching and feedback, that's kind of all you can ask at this point, and can communicate really well. Obviously, that's a given. But that's what I look for in hires.